The San Diego Prep Insiders Girls Basketball Podcast is powered by Jersey Mike's. Jersey Mike's, a sub above.
Hey, sports fans. Christian Pedersen, Tommy Morris, Aaron Bergen. Things have leveled out now that this is our second week in the row with the new seating arrangements. It's new semester, new seating, new friends. It's all good. We still know how to pass notes to one another. Yeah, exactly. I didn't say that this week. I said it last week. I said the wrong person. So
just making sure.
We are here to talk with you about league champs and the tail end of the season. This is the last regular season podcast. Brackets come out for the playoffs on Saturday. So go ahead, start getting nervous now. I know that I can feel it. It goes brackets, then Olympics.
Well, yeah, and then Winter Olympics.
Okay, sure. Neither here nor there about who's more exciting, RBV basketball or speed skating, but let's talk about those kind of things. We're going to do this alphabetically. We're going to talk about all the league races. Most of these are already the league champions, so we will be giving a lot of shout-outs with the caveat that 3 or 4 of these potentially still have some last week shenanigans could happen, but right now we are going to address the de facto league champions of all of this so that we can, next time we meet up, just move straight into playoffs. So guys, let's do this alphabetically, starting with the Avocado East. San Marcos, the Knights. You've talked a lot about Cody Clouette and company there. Shout out to them for winning Avocado East as it looks right now. Guys, what did you see out of them this season?
I would say they started off with that tournament in Florida, so we didn't know much about them because they hadn't come back yet. They played really well out there. You know, again, you don't know much about the teams out there. When they come back, they continue that, play really well in San Diego. They're the real deal. So shout out to them.
That was a gritty win they had on Friday against Vista at Vista. I think both teams shot in the 30s in terms of percentage, so it was an ugly offensive game. But to gut that one out in that type of environment, it's a huge win for them. So now they've got a game lead over Vista with 2 games remaining for both teams. Basically, it would take, barring some epic collapse, I think they're the league champs, and kudos to them for, a really strong year and, off to the playoffs looking like a top 4 seed.
Even with the loss to RBV mixed in there?
I mean, even with they've already absorbed that loss. The rankings came out this morning, and they're still sitting at 4, slightly above Mater Dei Catholic at 5.
Very nice. Also, San Marcos, one of the few teams that we've seen this season score in the triple digits.
Oh, yeah.
They put that up early in the season. So you got to think that somewhere in their back pocket, they have the ability to absolutely pour on the points. So you get them into that open division. It could be a let's mix it up and let's throw down our best game of the season, and would not be surprised if they end up being a dark horse. Avocado West, Torrey Pines. You do this.
They haven't lost a league game in 50 games. They won 50 in a row, so the least surprising on the list.
If you had replaced games with years, I would have also believed you.
I think the last time they lost a league game was they lost to Mount Carmel back in 2013, I think. And they shared the title, but Mount Carmel won it because they beat them twice that year. And that was back when there was the Palomar League. So it's been a long, long time. And they've been walloping teams recently. Carlsbad actually came in and played them the closest, and that was still a 10-plus point game. Got to give John Olive a lot of credit. He doesn't rebuild. He reloads year in, year out. They've got seniors who come in and do the job that, it kind of reminds me, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Hart High School in Southern California. They had this stretch where they would have just a senior football quarterback come in just 1 year. And that 1 year, he'd throw for 4,000 yards, 56 touchdowns, and become like a high major recruit. And he would only have 1 year of film to do it. And that's what these players do. They sit for most of their career. Finally, junior, senior year, they come out and, they're just as good as their predecessors, but they get the job done. So kudos to Torrey Pines.
I mean, yeah, it's all good.
I'll say this. Finn Sullivan has surprised me multiple times with his ability to finish at the rim and just actually slam it down. So this is one of the few years where I have seen a Torrey Pines team that is not entirely predicated on just the spot-up jumper. Like, I think about, to me, one of the most quintessential Torrey Pines teams was Jackson Strong. And just, like, the ability to constantly hit from the field everywhere they go. And Bryce Pope is that this year. But at the same time, this year, they've got a little bit of that extra flair with, if they need to throw down at the rim, like, it can actually happen on demand this year. So it's a scary Torrey Pines team coming in with that mix of physicality. Also, shout out to Jacob Rabb, because he can go down there and clear it out.
Shout out to Ben Marks.
Shout out to Ben Marks. Shout out to, like, that team, like you said, everybody waits their turn and gets it done. It is not a team of flashy, like, I think that John All probably would cringe at the concept of doing a freshman starting 5 type thing. And, you know,
you've cringed at a freshman starting 5 on JV a little.
Exactly. Well, that's why you and I can go be juniors and seniors starting on JV. In the Central League, this is one of the ones where there is still potentially a co-champs or flip-flop. Hoover right now is winning it. San Diego is right on their heels. But guys, Hoover, we talked about them kind of off and on for the last 3 years as being a team with Chris Modica and company that's they're good. How good can they be? They're good. How good can they be? And this year the buckets have been dropping. And they have been winning games, and it's been that turnaround where this is how good they can be. They can be a league champ potentially.
Yeah. They just have to avoid a couple of pitfalls. They've got Crawford and Madison. I think they travel to Madison, and then I've got to turn my phone on silent. And then they host Crawford. Crawford almost beat them the first time around in league play. 1 point game. That was a really, really exciting game. And Madison is sneaky good at home. So that's their path. They control their destiny, though. They win those 2 games, they win league. If they lose and San Diego beats University City on the road, then you have a share of the title. I'm thinking Hoover's going to take care of business, though.
Yeah, and they haven't gotten lucky this year. They've gone and beaten everybody, so good for them to be there. Again, this would be the one I wouldn't put as a lock yet. I think San Diego's still got a really real shot at getting a title or co-title or something like that.
Well, it's absolutely like you said. There are certain places that just mysteriously it's harder to play at, and Madison is one of them because those kids know how to play it. But I will say this: Hoover to me is a very interesting team come playoff time because of exactly what you said, the winning the close games. I think that's something that if you are blowing teams out all season long, you don't necessarily always have that resiliency that if you get punched in the mouth, you know how to answer. Hoover, you can look at some of those and go, ooh, barely beaten Crawford. No disrespect to Crawford, but does that prepare you for a CIF title? And I'll look at that and maybe say, a close win is maybe more beneficial for you in the long run, no matter who it's against, because it can gear you for you looking up at that clock going, okay, we're down 3 with 2.5 minutes left. This is no problem. So, shout out to them for potentially winning, and also shout out to them for this could be the year that they put things together in the playoffs. Like you said, though, San Diego close behind them.
Going back to the playoffs, we'll probably talk a little bit about that later, and next week we'll talk about it in our podcast. I mean, this Division III, everyone's chasing Mount Miguel. I mean, they're right now, you talked about not being in close games. They haven't been in they were in a relatively close game this weekend against Escondido, beat them by 7. That was their first really close game in almost 2 months. So they're looking like the team to beat. Hoover, Carlsbad, others are going to be chasing them.
Well, should be a lot of fun. Citrus League, Escondido Adventist. They were we'll call them a sweetheart of the tournament last year. Mm-hmm. They were one of the teams that made their first major postseason waves, and they are back again to win another league title.
Yep, they've got this one wrapped up. Red Hawks, congratulations. Bill Davis, great coach over there. His sons, Ethan and Tyler Davis, are doing a really good job. Ethan Davis is probably one of the better players in Division IV, double threat, who can also shoot the ball at 6'5". There's not much else to say except congratulations on that.
Yeah, congrats. Prove they're the real deal.
It's sustained success that kind of starts to turn heads where you go, oh, that last year, this year validates last year, because last year was not just a blip on the radar. It was not a Mission Vista with Cade Twyman or something like that, where you look at it now and you go, oh, that program's nowhere. Not to get too into that. I know that there's coaching stuff, and I will just we'll sweep that one under. Coastal League. Guys, Foothills Christian, again.
Yep.
Despite it not being the de facto runaway year that they have been accustomed to the last couple of years. They had to battle Mission Bay into overtime. They had to have a lot of close games, but they once again come out on top.
But they haven't had a lot of close games in league. And that's impressive because this league is the top league in San Diego. I mean, we saw that at the Battle at the Bay, going 4-1, there against the Western League. Which,
shout out La Jolla for getting the only win.
Yep. So, we saw that. We saw how powerful the Coastal League can be. And they just haven't been challenged in that league. And I think they've taken, I think they took offense earlier in the year when they took some of those losses, and having, people drop them into the top, out of the top 3, into the top 5. And I think as they've gelled and as their chemistry has improved, since Tayshaun Cherry's arrival, I mean, they're looking very scary right now going into the playoffs. They're the team to beat in the Open Division.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I mean, we saw them at the Torrey Pines tournament. They didn't look so hot. And we were all kind of thinking maybe this is the year where they don't win league. They figured it out, got it all together, and then as you said in league play, they kind of walked through everything. So good for those guys.
Yeah, it certainly is a brutal existence when you are looking at defending D1 champs, Santa Fe Christian being in that league, and an Open Division team in Country Day, and Army Navy Park, like that's a big time league. So to win that one, literally like 4 out of the top 10 teams have been in there. Out in the desert, shout out Palo Verde Valley for bringing home a league title. Obviously not a team that is very central to our plot lines here, but they are in our section and we give them much love.
Congrats.
Yeah, just throw that out there. 2 thumbs up from Tommy Morris. Hey, literally the first time he's ever given that out to a team. So that's high praise. Eastern League, the Christian Patriots. Now this was
Congrats on your win.
Thank you very much. This is one that will be on our next television episode with Nisham Carter and company out there. But guys, this is a little bit of a things yet to come with Jackson Larson and the team that they have out there. They are only going to lose one major piece. And so this is...
And gain a piece back.
Exactly. So just, what have you seen this year out of the emergence of some big guys in the interior and Christian?
What I've seen is resilience, first of all. Losing that first game, that first league game to Sarah in their house, really kind of set them up for a potential failure in league. I mean, and that was... Davion Famber saw this as this was their year to win league, and losing that first game kind of set a wrong tone. But what it did was it allowed them to refocus and recenter. And like you said, they started to play inside out. Guys like the athletic Jackson Larson, 6'6", dunking on everybody, really coming into his own this year. Christian West coming eligible after January 1, another athletic rebounding type. They've been able to play through those guys on the interior, and that's allowed for guys like Nasham Carter, Dominic Safarda, Isaiah Robinson, Jordan Gaines to really, have open looks and, easier shots for them. And kudos to them for figuring out that formula. They still got some work to do. They went out, and, if they went out, it's theirs. They're a game ahead, and they'll hold on. If they drop a game, then there's a potential share situation with Sarah if Sarah wins out. But right now, the Patriots are in the driver's seat, and like you mentioned, looking ahead to next year, they could have 6'8.5" Patrick Roberts, who's out with scoliosis surgery, Jackson Larson, Christian West in their front court. That's scary.
Yeah, we saw Larson dunking the ball off the side of the backboard. We went to go see their practice a couple weeks ago. So the kid
darn near broke our Instagram story.
Yeah, kid and jump. So congrats to Christian. As you guys will just reiterate it, I guess they'll be just as good, if not better, next year. So good things over there.
Team like that, you sort of got to wonder when you truncate and shorten down a season to a couple of games, does size take on an even bigger role than it did in a regular season, because you can shut down people who normally you might have to game plan a little more long-term for, but you can just say, go after it, shut down the lane, get all the rebounds. Next team, we'll talk about Grossmont Hills. Helix, there is still potential for a co-champs, but right now Helix is in the lead, so we will talk about Helix. Guys, this is one that you kind of scoffed at me a couple weeks ago for saying better than last year, not better than last year. Okay, so they might not be runaway CIF dominant favorites, but this is a very, very, very versatile and it's just a good Helix team.
Well, yeah, they're a good Helix team who also lost by 21 to Steel Canyon a couple of days ago. This is not the Miles Norris Helix team, but this is a quality team. They've won some tough games. They're a game ahead in league, and they're well positioned to do some damage in Division One. I mean, they'll be one of the top 8 seeds in D1, meaning they'll get a home game. They could steal a game on the road because one thing that they do really do well is they defend. When they're locked in, they're a great defensive group.
Yeah, they're not like last year. They don't have one dominant player. They have kind of a team, a little bit different this year, but they'll probably take that league and then see what happens in the playoffs.
Staying out in Grossmont, we got the Grossmont Valley League locked up by Mount Miguel. Now, this is a team that last year we saw them in the finals, and this year they, despite losing some pieces, have not really fallen off. Tommy?
I mean, we talked about them a little bit earlier, but them potentially being the best team in Division III. Stick to that. They deserve this league title, and they probably will win that Division III title.
Chew on this for a second. Right now, according to Max Preps, if the Division II playoffs were to start today,
Throwing numbers at me. I don't like it.
They would be the 2 seed in D2. They would be behind Montgomery. They would be a 2 seed in Division II if they were D2 eligible. That's how good that team is right now. Earlier in the year, like you mentioned earlier with San Marcos, we didn't know how good San Marcos was going to be because they were out of town. We didn't know how good Mount Miguel was going to be because their schedule was terrible. I mean, no offense to those guys, but that schedule was really soft, and and it's reflected in their strength of schedule score on Max Preps. But they weren't in any close games. They were blowing teams out, meaning they were significantly better than their schedule. And if you look at their team, when they come into the gym and when they're in warm-ups and right when they're about to tip off, this looks like one of the 10 to 12 best teams in San Diego. Yeah. They look the part, and when they get out there, they play the part. Grossmont Valley League this year has a couple of, intriguing teams. Santana's decent. El Cajon Valley has taken a couple of games. Monte Vista is one of the top 3 teams in Division 4. So, there are teams that have done damage, but, man, I can't say enough about how impressed I've been with Mount Miguel this year.
And it sort of, to me, is interesting how in one segment you can talk about the polar opposites mattering a ton of you can talk about a Hoover being in those clutch short games, and that tells you a lot about the playoffs. And then you can also tell you a lot about how Mount Miguel playing teams that are in their division and blasting them into a crater also tells you a lot about their playoffs.
Going back, we went through the Avocado East. I think if there's one team, if there's one team that can give them trouble, I think in Division III, it's RBV.
Yeah, with RBV, we could do a whole show sort of unpacking what that win against San Marcos meant. But it definitely throws some curiosity. Like I said, we'll be back next week with playoffs, and that's where the real nitty-gritty of coming up with your alleged ideas behind a pick and being there to validate it. But we're going to table that until the playoff podcast because I'm not going to get distracted. I'm not a squirrel. I'm not going to do it. Imperial Valley. Tommy, you know a lot about this team. The Brawley Wildcats. They are back at it, winning another title. Now you can always, with these outline, the Palo Verde, the far northeast teams, you can say, who did they play? What did they do? But a league title is a league title, so I do not want to discredit what Brawley has done this season.
Man.
I'm going to pick them every single game in the playoffs, no matter where they're seated, no matter what. So,
you know what? We talk about who did they play. I mean, I saw the Central team that they play in league. Central gave San Diego all it could handle in the Bonita Vista Spartans Classic, so I had a chance to watch them. They're a good team. El Centro Southwest was beating Mission Hills deep into the second quarter of their game before Mission Hills shook loose and beat them at the Christian MLK shootout. That's a good team. Brawley is right now, ahead of them both in the standings. They're all really quality teams. We don't get a chance to see them that often until the playoffs, and that's one of the things that helps them come playoff time because all these San Diego teams have been beating up on each other, and they don't have a scouting report on these guys. So when they come out, it's usually the first time you've seen them. It'll be interesting to see what they do in the playoffs.
Especially when you have a team like that has returning CIF champions. It is always big to build off of that and not take a gap year or two and be like, oh, he was on the bench and he won it as a freshman and now it's his senior year and a chance to come full circle. But when you were just right back in the playoffs the next year with experience,
back to back to back,
you just got to be like, ooh, that's dangerous. That is a dangerous team that you don't want to cross. Manzanita League. Shout out to Julian. Congratulations to them.
Congrats.
Guys,
haven't seen.
Tommy, 2 thumbs up, 1.5 thumbs up, 3 thumbs up.
I'll do 2 eagle wings.
Hey.
There we go.
Drop down and get your.
We're gonna keep you out of having to pick or understand what school has what mascot. We know that that's a subject that you are not necessarily consistently educated on. Granite Hills is in fact birds, not a cat. Now I'm going to get distracted.
Cat dog.
Squirrel.
Yeah. Mesa League. This one is interesting because we've got a lot of really good teams down there. Modern Day Catholic, though, coming out on top. Guys, shout out first off. We can talk specifically about them now, but also just let's talk about the fact that they had to win this over another league that had top 10 teams in it. So between the Avocado leagues, the Western League, and the Mesa League, these are the 3 best represented leagues in terms of top 10 all season long. Modern Day did not falter and ever go below 6.
Yeah. Kudos to them. I will say this. There technically is a chance for a share, but probably not because Montgomery has to go to Modern Day and beat them in their house in order to pull that off. And that, I just don't see that happening. But what they've done in this league has been very impressive. I mean, they went into Montgomery and just, it was machine-like effort, and it's, it's year in there, year out. I mean, part of it is they have an inherent advantage over the teams in the South Bay because they're able to recruit because they are a private school. It's a slightly unlevel playing field. But like you mentioned, there are some good teams down there. Eastlake, Otay Ranch, Montgomery, Bonita Vista are all over 500. And they've just rolled all of them.
Yeah, Beyond Riley, Trey Anderson both had good seasons, and doesn't surprise me with those 2 guys on the team that they were able to pull this off.
Yeah, if Montgomery gets that W, I'll show up on the next podcast wearing a Timmy Crawford jersey. I will definitely be rocking that. But I think you hit it right on the point with their over 500. It doesn't necessarily need to be like a Foothills where we're talking about open division. But at some point, there is just this attrition where you go, oh, we got to play another game where we have to be working wire to wire because that team is good. And if we slip, they're going to get us. So shout out to Modern Day for keeping the foot on the gas pedal all season long. Another team that has been keeping the gas pedal pumped down to the floor is Guajome Park. They are winners of the Ocean League. Tommy?
Ribbit.
Good team. Last year they were in the D5 finals. This year, right back there, Tiberius Ballard, Christian Garrett, 2 really good players that they've got. They've got size in the middle with I think Jordan Benson is his name. It's an interesting group. They're one of the top 5 or 6 seeds in Division 4 this year. So kudos to them. And Greg Garrett and Coach Greg Garrett. Yeah,
they strike me a lot similar to O'Farrell from a couple years ago, where they're not coming out of nowhere anymore. They're not necessarily going to be an open division team next year, but do not think that this is a school that is incapable of sustaining a decent amount of competitiveness over the next 5 years.
It will be interesting, though. They do lose quite a bit this year. Their senior class has carried them the last 4 years. So it'll be interesting to see how Greg Garrett reloads.
I think there's something to be said, though, about once you turn the corner and you just at least establish that culture is available, your lower classmen pick up on the upperclassmen thing, and you just sometimes need to just be like, hey, look, all you know is winning, so you have no option at going back to it. Another team that knows a lot of winning, Maranatha Christian up in the Pacific League. I see a whoosh from you. What's that all about?
Well, of course, they were, last year they were at the same clip, 3 losses, 20-some wins, and I thought they were going to be in the D4 finals. And they lost in the first round to none other than Hilltop. Yeah, you remember that. I think you called that one.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know anything about sports, but I know how to pick mascots.
So I'm sold on them this year because I've seen them a few times. They shoot the ball particularly well. They've got a high level player in Philip Willis, but in the back,
some flight insurance.
In the back of your mind, though, you always think back to last year they were that team that was supposed to win, and they box and one on Willis just killed that team. So what happens this year? It'll be interesting to see. But they're the top seed in D4, and right now they're the runaway top seed in D4.
Tommy, you've had the chance to be out there over the last couple of years and soak up a little bit of this team. What are your thoughts?
I kind of agree there. I mean, it's not fair because you have that in the back of your head, like, well, I've seen this movie before, basically. But you have to factor in the fact, too, that a lot of these kids went through that heartbreak last year of dropping that game, and they don't want that to happen again. They want to bring home that Division IV title. So I think they will. Yeah,
so they're the salty chip on their shoulder team coming into this. So maybe we haven't seen this movie before. Maybe this is the sequel. Maybe this is Wrath of Khan, where you take the first one and you go, that was bad. We're going to come up with a legend on number 2.
Oh, yeah.
And whether or not you guys agree or disagree with that reference, I don't care, because it's what I'm going with.
Wrath of Khan was a monster.
That's what I'm saying.
That Star Trek was, hot garbage.
Has no life.
Kindred spirits.
Has friends.
Yes.
Next one, out in the Palomar League. Guys, Rancho Bernardo. They have been good a long time now, but this was one that kind of surprised all of us.
It surprised all of us.
I didn't see it coming at all. Congrats to Broncos. Great season. See if they can keep going through the playoffs.
I pegged Poway's league to lose, and then they lost literally everyone over the course of the year. Injuries, attrition. Had one of their best players, two of their best players, transfer in the middle of the school year. One in New Jersey, the other one in Balboa School. That was stunning turn of events for Poway, and Rancho Bernardo just capitalized on it big time. What made it even more surprising was that they started the year out so mercurial. They would win a couple of games here, drop a couple of question marks. They lost badly to Steel Canyon, and then they turn around and beat Pasadena LaSalle, which was a physically dominant team in the Mount Carmel Holiday Classic, and beat Temecula Valley in the championship. So kudos to them for, just riding that little wave of inconsistency and just absolutely just running away with the league title.
To me, they're the team where it shows the adage of you got to play your best ball at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. And you can take all the L's you want as long as you're learning something from them.
Yes.
You can be rocky. You can just, if you turn a 30% shooting night into let's get 2 feet closer to the basket and let's shoot 50% the next night, you're going to get better from losses. So that's, I think, what we've seen a lot of out of Rancho Bernardo is that the coaching staff just kept calm at the helm and said, look, this is a very different team than last year. Last year, everything was funneled through JJ Overton to the point where we saw them lose a game where JJ dropped 44 and the rest of the team scored 4. So this year, they blow up that format and they say, let's get the ball all over the court, and the success has followed. So very interesting to me. They are a team that you get into the playoffs and you sort of go, they're coming out of a weak league, they're this, they're that, and they'll win a game. And then you'll be like, all right, well, that was a fluke, and then they'll win a game. And just they are doing what needs to be done to get the wins, and that's a sleeper team.
And this isn't a weak league, though. I mean, you've got you've got Poway in it. It's a good league.
But it's a league where we haven't talked about top 10 and runaway favorites and all that. And I understand Westview snipes one team in every sport in every season and takes them down. So yada, 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 whatever. They're the best in all of it. Speaking of the best, Cambridge School is the best in the Patriot League, or the Patrio League, as I wrote it down there.
Good old Patriot League.
At least I didn't write the Parrot League. Illiteracy be darned. Guys, Cambridge School is new to the scene, and they sweep in with a dub.
I unfortunately can't say I've ever seen them play, so I don't have much to add, but congratulations.
I have. I saw them in the darkest gym in San Diego, Spring Valley Rec Center, and they were without their best player, Judah Pemberton, and blew out Calvary Christian by 25. What's interesting about them is they have not, I thought I've seen pretty weak schedule strengths when I see the -1 or the -2. Their schedule strength is a -19.1 according to Max Preps. But the reason they're the top seed in Division 5 right now, they've only lost 1 game. Gotta give them a ton of credit for beating who's on the schedule. It'll be interesting to see if they can sustain it through the playoffs.
Another team that is and we say these things not to disrespect teams, but there are literally hundreds of teams in the county that we just don't get the chance to go see. Another one that we have not seen is Horizon Prep. They are going to win the Pioneer League, so congratulations.
Congrats. Haven't seen.
So, guys, moving down now to the South Bay, Sweetwater, they are going to win it. There's a potential for they could still split with Hilltop, but Sweetwater has been the story of freshmen. C.J. McMillan, a.k.a. the goggles. I'm going to call him the guru of goggles, or the goggle guru or something like that. We're still going to work that out because he's a freshman. He still has time. Tommy, freshman sensation of the year, that whole vibe you were talking about them being something we met up with early.
Yeah, Coach, we were there for the Sweetwater tournament. Coach warned us about him. He was right. CJ with a good year.
Absolutely.
Great year. He's had a triple-double. It's not a surprise. He's been on the radar for a few years now, really coming into his own. But this is a team that's going to be all about the future. 2 freshmen in the starting lineup, 5 sophomores that play significant minutes. Count them along with, Mater Dei Catholic and others who have some big-time freshmen down there. They're going to be something. They're going to be a story that we're going to really follow over the next few years.
Yeah, the narrative could be changing down in the South Bay. Frontier League, Preuss from UCSD, or UCSD Preuss, or the Preuss School of UCSD, or however you actually correctly describe that institution. They are champions.
Yeah, congratulations. Gone undefeated in the league. 2 very, very good guards, Kibru Suyebo, Thomas Tolentino. Really excited for what they have in store.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, good for them. Good for the Giants.
Exactly. Good for Totino's winning a playoff or a league championship. Sunset Victory Christian gets it done for Lutheran. We've seen some championships from both of them. We know the coaching staff is bringing in some ballers there. Guys, is this something that at this point is right where they expected to be, or is this just still a good feel-good, positive story of something building up towards a bigger?
I think it's just the beginning. When you're in a smaller school like that and you're playing against teams in smaller conferences, smaller leagues, you get a good coach like DJ Gay who's able to get kids that want to go to the school, makes a huge difference. 2 or 3 kids make a world of difference. So I think it's just the beginning.
Yeah, 1 junior, 2 sophomores, and a freshman. So they've got at least a couple years in this run. Kudos to them.
The Valley League going to Escondido.
1 big transfer to Mission Hills. Doesn't matter. They're still able to pull off the league victory by themselves. And, shout out to those kids. I think a lot of people kind of looked over them because of the transfer and that kind of stuff, but they won the league.
Yeah. Weren't even in my top 35 to begin the year, have probably moved into that top 35. PJ Baldwin, great coach. Players like Ryan Green, Hakeem Barber, Jacob Hutchinson really have, improved, year over year. Kudos to them, getting it done.
Like I've said all along, this is alphabetical, so we have not been disrespecting this team and waiting for last, and we have not also been saving the best for last. I don't want you to read anything into why we are waiting until now to talk about Mission Bay, but shout out to Mission Bay for winning the Western League. Tommy, how long has their title drought been?
29 years, and it's gone. And they're only, core group of guys are basically all juniors. Next year is going to be state run for these guys.
Literally 2/3 of this show was not alive the last time that Mission Bay won, and you were a senior in college? Kidding, joking. That's all still his natural hair color. That was nice.
Yeah, it's funny because Marshawn Cherry, the head coach at Mission Bay, was talking to me earlier this week about wondering, why wouldn't people think that he's a, Coach of the Year candidate? And I'm here to set the record straight. He indeed is a Coach of the Year candidate and probably should be the front runner. First league title in 29 years, 4-0 against the private schools for the first time in school's history. Player of the Year candidate in Boogie Ellis. You have to give them a ton of credit. They have, for being, we talked about this at some point, being a public school, only having, 900 kids. It's a feel-good story, and for them to sweep through league the way they have, kudos to them.
Public versus private, always a topic of debate and a discussion, and doing it through the big 3, football, basketball, baseball, maybe the realities are a little bit different for everybody, but it does seem like the trend is toward the private schools being a little bit more successful and winning more games, and they have been stopped cold by Mission Bay this year. So very curious to see, because like you guys both said, this is really just a playing with house money. Whatever
This is the
happens this
prelude,
year,
yeah.
like, yeah, and you know, who knows? Like, this could be a team this year that could go kind of deep into the state playoffs already, and yet that won't be them even coming close to what they're capable of. However, we will stop talking about playoffs because that is our next podcast.
Yes.
So we will see you guys after Selection Saturday, and it's going to be anarchy. It's going to be chaos. It's going to be well rationalized and thought out decisions, impulsive, unprepared, last minute exclamations of teams.
And the other guy.
And
Really quick.
well, no, Tommy. Look, Tommy's to the point. Tommy doesn't mess around when it comes to picks. Tommy does his homework. Tommy's that guy that just. He's the Marshawn. He's the Marshawn Lynch. He's not here to get fined. He shows up to get his work done, get in the end zone, get that dub.
I'm like the guy in math class who never shows his work but just writes the answer in the column.
Okay, he's the savant genius that is. Who's the guy from A Beautiful Mind?
We'll go with Rain Man. Rain Man. Rain Man's brother.
Yeah.
Rain Man technically is the brother. I forget. Yes. Okay.
All right.
Oh, Babbitt. Rick Babbitt. No. All right.
Whatever. Yeah.
Somehow, starting with Wrath of Khan and going into all of this, we just our movie knowledge and culturing is not nearly as good as our basketball. That's why we do this instead of a movie podcast. Guys, I am out. I will see you in playoffs.
Mic drop.
Christian Pedersen,
Tom Morris.
Tom Morris, Real Tommy Morris, Aaron Bergen, Full Time Hoops 1. We will see you later.